So I wanted to just quickly make a video about these two new Pimax Crystal models which have just been announced at the Pimax Frontier event. And the two models are the Pimax Crystal LIGHT and the Pimax Crystal SUPER. And I'm probably going to focus on the latter, to be honest, mostly in this video because I find it the most interesting. But the Pimax Crystal LIGHT has got some interesting things about it, especially the price, which I know will interest a lot of people. But one of the things that they've taken out of both of these headsets is the XR2 chip, the onboard processing, that high-powered processing, I would say, for standalone, and the battery. And during my review of the original Pimax Crystal, I did say, I spent quite a long time focusing on that aspect and saying, I believe that a lot of people that would pick up the Pimax Crystal really want it for PC VR anyway, and don't really want that XR2 chip or the battery for standalone mode. Now, I know that it has other aspects, if you want the wireless module, which now looks like it is coming out later on this year, which is great, then, you still need to go for that Crystal, the original Crystal model to get that wireless mode for PC VR using the 60 gigahertz WiGig module. But these two new Pimax Crystal models both focus purely on PC VR. They've removed the battery, removed the XR2 chip, but kept a lot of the features. I'll go through some of the specs of the Pimax Crystal SUPER first. I've got the spec sheet here that we can run through separately and just go through a few of these things anyway. So on this video presentation, they did speak about the glass lenses a lot, actually. They spent a long time on these glass lenses and how they are the best for the job in this particular case. And the glass aspheric lenses are great on the Pimax Crystal. They do have some disadvantages like the weight and things like that, but they do offer really nice clear image onto that display. So they're keeping a QLED display on the standard model of the Pimax Crystal SUPER, but they're also offering what they call an interchangeable optical engine. Now, this is like a module that you can take out of the Pimax Crystal SUPER and replace it with a micro OLED version. So it's interchangeable. You've got the QLED version, similar to what's on the Pimax Crystal original, and then you've got a micro OLED version, which replaces the displays with micro OLED displays and also replaces the lenses with a different type of lens. Now, a lot of the reason that people want micro OLED, a lot of the reason the industry is moving towards micro OLED is to reduce the form factors of the headsets, along with all the other advantages that the micro OLED has. Now, Pimax are not focusing on reducing the form factor. It doesn't look like that's in their roadmap for a long time, honestly, based on what they said in this presentation, which to me is a little bit disappointing. But at the same time, the reasons they gave were they didn't want to compromise on the optics. They wanted to keep with this kind of form factor in order to make it modular and give them more options, which actually is not a bad reason overall. I just think that overall, when I'm using the Pimax Crystal, the size of it just does get in the way sometimes. And I think people look at it now in 2024 when you've got a lot of other VR headsets which are reducing form factor way down. And that's one of the criticisms that gets landed on the Pimax headsets quite a lot, honestly. So it's a shame, but I can see some of the reasoning behind it anyway. But anyway, back to this display system. So the QLED display, it's this resolution, they've increased it beyond the standard Pimax Crystal now. So it's 3840 by 3840 per eye, up to 120 hertz. Whether that 120 hertz will be coming straight away or not, we don't know. Pimax do tend to roll these things out slowly, honestly. So we'll see what happens with that. But that resolution is a massive increase over the 2880 by 2880 per eye on the original Crystal. So they've gone some way in increasing pixel density on that display, which is always going to be an advantage. I think the fact is that we're getting to the limits of what modern PCs can handle now, and we've got a new GPU generation probably coming out later on this year or early next year anyway, which can probably help handle that. And also they are retaining the eye tracking in the Pimax Crystal SUPER, of course, as well. So you still get the eye tracking, the dynamic foveated rendering, which can be used to help. And regardless, just having a higher pixel density on these headsets, even if you can't run at that native resolution, is always an advantage. It's just you have to balance out whether that advantage is worth the extra money or not. Now, on the micro OLED side, it's got 4K per eye, basically. So I presumably I think they mentioned that these are the same panels or similar panels to the ones that are used in the Apple Vision Pro. And these micro OLED panels will run at 90 hertz. And they shown sort of images of these lenses as well, so they're much smaller lenses. And incidentally, the glass lenses, which are coupled with the QLED optical engine, they look a lot bigger as well. I think they said 30% larger than the standard crystal lenses as well. And the field of view that apparently enables them, when coupled with this new panel on the QLED, can give the field of view up to 130 degrees horizontal and 110 degrees vertical, which is, that's quite a big increase in field of view. So we'll see about that, if that all stacks up. But of course, the micro OLED version, it has a smaller field of view, but you get the deeper blacks. It's running that, the micro OLED display. So you do get the deep blacks, and I don't know, I think I'll still stick with the QLED. As I mentioned, the main advantage that I would move over to a micro OLED, rather than just the vibrancy of the colours and things like that, which probably isn't hugely different to the QLED. Maybe it is, I don't know. But it's the form factor. And if they're not reducing the overall form factor, it seems a little bit redundant for me to go in that direction when with the types of things that I'm playing on the Crystal with the PC VR anyway. But that QLED panel works in exactly the same way as the original Crystal. So it says on this spec sheet, it says 70 to 120 hertz, refresh rates interchangeable. It does say here reduce size and weight. So I've spoken about the form factor. It doesn't look to be any different to the standard Crystal form factor, but again, we'll have to wait and see on that if it is, marginally smaller or something like that. But the other interesting thing that they mentioned during this presentation is these lenses, when coupled with these new panels at that very, very high resolution, high pixel density, is even with that larger field of view, they're still saying that the pixels per degree in the Pimax Crystal SUPER are getting up to sort of 50 ppd, which is very, very high. And they did mention the figure as well that a lot of people have quoted in the past that 60 ppd is generally regarded as the sort of the retina display of VR. It's like the human eye resolution, basically. So with these optional lenses as well, you can change them out, put in these other lenses, which presumably reduces the field of view down slightly, and then you can get 57 ppd. So very, very high pixel density and pixels per degree, which is really what counts for clarity a lot of the time. But it's difficult. We've got to see how all of this is going to run. It's difficult to know whether at that native resolution you're going to get any sort of decent frame rates on some of the most demanding games like Microsoft Flight Simulator. It remains to be seen. Even on the next generation of GPUs, it remains to be seen. So it'll be interesting stuff anyway, but they are definitely pushing certain aspects. Whether it's going to be useful for everybody or not is another thing, but they're definitely pushing certain things. Just running through some of these more standard things anyway. So it still comes as standard with 6 degrees of freedom inside-out tracking, comes with the standard controllers which come with the Crystal, it looks like, as well. You do get the optional faceplate, the Steam VR faceplate, where you can use the base stations if you prefer that. So that's all in there, exactly the same as the Crystal. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So it's still got the integrated audio as you would expect, still got the eye tracking, dynamic foveated rendering, all those other things. But they are definitely pushing this in the direction they always do, I suppose. They want to push things. Now, whether all of these features are coming on launch or not, I'm not sure, because they always, as I mentioned, they always seem to roll things out steadily, and sometimes they will remove features from the software while giving you other features. So, we're going to have to wait and see on that. This is one of the criticisms that gets landed at Pimax quite a bit with the software. So yeah, we will see, and it will be interesting regardless. But let me get these prices up for the Pimax Crystal SUPER. So they did announce, if you want the standard Crystal SUPER QLED edition, then that's $1,799 US. If you want the micro OLED version with that optical engine as standard already fitted in the Pimax Crystal, then that's $1,999 US. So you're looking at $2,000 for that. And then if you want the bundle where you get the QLED optical engine module and the micro OLED optical engine module, then they're selling that for $2,399 US, which is actually not, if you do want both. I mean, I think that the the micro OLED is a bit of something that they can just say, oh, we're using micro OLEDs now. I don't personally think that's going to be a huge value necessarily, but we'll see. Again, I've got to think about this a bit more and maybe try it out hopefully at some point as well. They are also offering, for anybody that's already got a Pimax Crystal, then you can get a discount as well of $400, $399 on each of those prices. So, you know, they're trying to get a bit of goodwill for releasing these products in relative quick succession, I would say. But still worthwhile, I suppose. And this is an interesting device. I think that the fact it's got this resolution, the fact that it can get to that supposed pixel density, that 50 ppd is standard, and it's got that larger field of view, which a lot of people that are into Pimax really want. That's why they got into Pimax in the first place, is because they sort of specialize in the wide field of view headsets. So it makes sense that they're going that. It's not the ultra wide field of view like the 8KX or anything, but 130 degrees is a nice little bump in field of view compared to the standard Crystal. There's still no word on the 12K QLED, which a lot of people are holding out for, which will bring back that wide field of view kind of thing that Pimax are known for. So I think there's going to be some people that are a little bit disappointed about no mention of that, but hopefully we'll get some more word on that at some point. They do like bringing out these new products, as we know, and this wasn't the only one that they announced. So they also announced the Crystal Light, the Pimax Crystal Light. So once again, with this headset, they've stripped out the battery, stripped out the XR2 chip, and they're focusing on PC VR. And this is like a cutback version of the Crystal. So importantly, you don't get the eye tracking in this version. So you won't be able to take advantage of the dynamic foveated rendering, get the performance benefits that has and stuff. It comes in two options. You can get it with local dimming, the backlight, the mini LED backlight. So you can get it with local dimming or without local dimming. And I think there was around a $200 price difference. I think the standard version of the Pimax Crystal Light is $699. If you want local dimming in there, then it's $899. But it's basically, like I mentioned, a cutback version of the standard Crystal without that standalone mode. It's making a focus on PC VR, which is a great thing to do. I think that $699 price is good for a PC VR headset with these specs, really. Again, the form factor is probably one of the worst things about it. And this doesn't really have as much modularity as the original Crystal. It doesn't have the swappable lenses, which, quite honestly, the things, I've not tried the wide field of view lenses or anything like that in the Crystal, but you can't swap out the lenses in the Crystal Light. And from what I've heard from other people that have used those lenses, they weren't particularly impressive anyway, so maybe it's no bad thing. It's still Lighthouse compatible as well if you want to get that faceplate, but it's as standard as with the Super and the standard Crystal. It's just inside out tracking as well. But yeah, I mean, one of the things they did mention with both of these actually is that the reduced weight. Now, the Super, presumably it's not reduced too much, but of course you've not got the battery in there and some of the other things that are associated with the XR2 chip. And again, the Crystal Light is a lighter weight, and they say slightly smaller form factor as well. So it still uses fixed foveated rendering. So although it won't use the eye tracking, it's still got that fixed foveated rendering in there where it will render the central part of the display at a higher resolution than the outer edges of the display. So you'll get a performance benefit with that, but not everybody likes that. It's obviously more noticeable than dynamic foveated rendering based on eye tracking. This is an interesting one as well. I think it's good that they've got this out there to give an option for people. Once again, I think Pimax are probably slightly in danger of just releasing too many products in quick succession, and it can confuse the market. This particular one, I don't mind quite so much with this focus on PC VR. I think if you're looking for a Crystal now, I think if you're looking for this type of sim gaming headset, then this gives you a couple of decent options to pair with a appropriately powered PC, I would say. Yeah, interested in the Super. I'm very interested in that, just to see the differences between the micro OLED, the QLED, that high resolution. You get to a point though with all these specs where you just get diminishing returns, and I don't know, they're pushing things forward. So I'm glad that there is a company doing that, and for a price which is, you know, a little bit lower than some of the competition now, in places at least. And I think a lot of this still comes down to the fact that we need to try it and see exactly how it is in practice. But that's pretty much it. This was a bit of a longer video than I planned. That's just some of the specs, and there's plenty more to say on both of these products anyway, but I'll probably get onto that in some future videos. But yeah, have a look at some of these specs in detail and let me know what you think in comments. But that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.